The smiling faces in these photographs and video suggest that the subject is happy and enjoying life. However, behind each smile is a chilling backstory. In this video, we will look at 5 photographs and videos that seem normal at first, but are not. But before we start, hit those lights, sit back and enjoy. John Cooper and Janet Johnson. Mount Aconcagua is located in the principal cordillera of the Andes mountain range in Mendoza Province, Argentina. As the highest peak in the Western Hemisphere, it presents significant challenges for mountaineers. Its unpredictable and harsh conditions often force climbers to turn back before reaching the 22,000-foot summit. However, for experienced climbers, it's the ultimate thrill. In early 1973, Carmi Defoe, the head of a climbing club based in Oregon, organized an expedition to climb Mount Aconcagua. The team was led by Miguel Alfonso, a native of Argentina and an experienced climber. Joining him on the trip were psychiatrist Jim Petrosk, physician Bill Eubank, farmer Arnold McMillan, police officer Bill Zenner, and student John Shelton. 2 late additions to the trip were NASA engineer John Cooper and Janet Johnson, one of only 20 women who reached the summit of every peak in Colorado over 14,000 feet, known as 14ers. The climb attracted some media attention, and Rafael Moran, a reporter for Los Andes, a daily newspaper in Mendoza, who interviewed the mountaineers, quickly sensed something not quite right with the group. They seemed disconnected from each other, and he whispered to his photographer, "Take each of their photos today. I don't think they're all coming back." The group arrived at base camp on the 21st of January 1973. It was estimated that reaching the peak would take at least a week, so the group had a long climb ahead of them. However, right from the start, things didn't go to plan. The team quickly became fractured due to personality conflicts and illness, and it wasn't long before the group split. Carmi and a few other climbers stayed at Camp 1, and the rest headed to Camp 2. They managed to reach the base of the Polish glacier and set up the 3rd camp. At this point, they were at an altitude of over 19,000 feet, and fortunately, they arrived just before a storm hit. However, the next day, while making their way up the glacier, Jim Petrosk suddenly fell ill with altitude sickness and was escorted back to camp by the guide, Miguel Alfonso. The remaining group consisted of Janet, John, Bill, and Arnold. Despite their combined experience, this was the first time any of them had been to such a high altitude or led a party. They all struggled up the glacier but didn't manage to reach the summit, stopping at 21,000 feet due to challenging weather and altitude conditions. They set up a makeshift camp, but by morning, John was half covered in snow, and the harsh wind had exhausted him, leading him to head back down alone as he was frozen and tired. Sadly, John Cooper never made it down. He died on the glacier. Shortly after, Janet Johnson also met her demise. However, the exact circumstances of their deaths is still unknown. The details of what happened and why they died has remained a mystery for decades. Bill Zeller and Arnold McMillan were the last people to see Janet and John alive. Once they made their way back to camp, minus 2 members of the group, the authorities were called. Both men gave a detailed version of events to the police, though neither man's story matches the other's exactly. The reason for this was put down to the effects of enduring such a stressful, high-altitude environment. The remaining American mountaineers, plus the guide Miguel Alfonso, were also questioned. Later that year, Miguel led a 4-man team at Mount Aconcagua to try and recover John and Janet's bodies. On the Polish glacier, they found John Cooper's corpse. However, the state they found him in was unusual. He was only wearing 1 crampon and didn't appear to have his ice axe, a must-have item when traversing the mountains. But what was more concerning was the bloody wound to his stomach and the frozen expression of horror on his face. It would be 2 years before Janet's body was found when 17-year-old Alberto Colombero, his father Ernesto, and family friend Guillermo stumbled upon her corpse. Janet was laid face up. The skin had fallen off her face, exposing her battered bones, and similar to John, she was only wearing one crampon, and her ice axe was missing. She had bloodstains on her jacket and a rock on top of her body. During the recovery, her arm detached and was left on the mountain, frozen in ice. The discovery of the bodies posed more questions than answers. Autopsies showed Johnson and Cooper died of a brain injury. For many years, the mystery of what happened to John and Janet remained unsolved, and mostly forgotten about. Then, in 2020, there was a massive breakthrough. While climbing Mount Aconcagua, 2 climbers stumbled upon an old camera perfectly preserved by the freezing temperatures. The name Janet Johnson was embossed on the case. Although the lens was broken, the device was largely undamaged. Unbeknownst to them, the camera contained Janet's final moments before her untimely death. In total, Janet took 24 pictures. She'd taken photo of her fellow climbers and snapped the surroundings. Here is John Cooper in the front, followed by Janet and one of the other climbers. The pictures help piece together a timeline of her death. It appeared she'd taken a lot of pictures after John Cooper had decided to make his way back to camp. This is one of the final images on her camera, in which she has her ice axe and her crampons. Despite the discovery of the camera, the mystery is still not solved, although it's intriguing that Daniel Araujo, an assistant to the medical examiner on the autopsies, claimed they were killed, both of them. These kinds of injuries were not self-inflicted. This is the smiling face of one of Britain's most heinous killers, Lucy Letby. To the outside world, Lucy was a devoted neonatal nurse who worked at the Countess of Chester Hospital, which is located in the English city of Chester. However, a cold and calculated baby killer was behind her caring and happy demeanour. Between June 2015 and June 2016, Letby murdered 7 infants and attempted to murder at least 6 others who were under her care. Letby's first known victim was a 1-day-old baby who had been delivered by C-section at 31 weeks and was admitted to the intensive care room where she was working. Despite being premature, the child was breathing on his own and was expected to survive. However, on June 8, 2015, Letby alerted doctors to the decline in the baby's condition. And after doctors examined the infant, they noticed his skin had an odd discoloration. The baby died unexpectedly, and it would later emerge that Letby had injected air into the baby's bloodstream through one of 2 tubes attached to his body. The following day, Letby attempted to murder the baby's twin sister using the same method. This time, however, the victim survived with no long-term consequences. Letby went on to murder 2 more babies in June using the same method. In the summer of 2015, Dr. Breary, a senior paediatrician at the Countess of Chester Hospital, noticed some unusual activity in the unit and was concerned about how 4 relatively healthy babies succumbed to acute and catastrophic deterioration in their health for no discernible reason. His investigations led to one common factor: Lucy Letby. He passed his concerns and a report to the hospital's Trust Committee for Serious Incidents, where they were classified as medication errors. Free to continue killing, Letby took another life of a twin baby in the early hours of August the 4th. After the murder, Letby began experimenting with other ways of killing, and the following day, she attempted to poison the twin sibling by using insulin. Luckily, he survived the attempt on his life. A month later, she tried twice to kill another baby by feeding her too much milk. Though the infant survived, she was left severely disabled. On October the 23rd, Letby took the life of another baby by injecting air into her stomach via a nasogastric tube. Chillingly, newspapers reported that Letby later sent a sympathy card to the child's parents and kept a photograph of the card on her phone. At this point, a nurse and ward manager named Arian Powell began reviewing the cases, and like Stephen Breary, also found that Lucy Letby was present at all the incidents. On April 7, 2016, Letby was moved to day shifts. However, the killing continued, and 2 days later, she attempted to take the lives of 2 children, twin baby boys, by injecting air into one of them and tried to poison the other with insulin. Thankfully, both the infants survived the ordeal. In June of that year, Letby attempted to murder a 34-week-old baby, but the infant survived. After returning from holiday on June the 23rd, she took the lives of 2 triplets. With investigations into the unexpected deaths continuing, Letby was moved into an administrative role in mid-July 2016. Unhappy about this, Letby raised a formal complaint to the board. Notably, no further deaths in neonatal ward had occurred in the 4 months since Letby had been removed. In March 2017, after consulting with a regional neonatal lead who advised further investigation, the consultants requested management to involve the police. This investigation of unexplained deaths was named Operation Hummingbird, aimed to probe the cases of death and collapse of premature babies in the neonatal ward at the Countess of Chester Hospital. On July 3, 2018, Lucy Letby was arrested on suspicion of 8 counts of murder and 6 counts of attempted murder. Take a look.
I'm going to put you in the back seat over here.
Hold on, Mum, until you get the seat.
Okay, just take a seat in there for me, Lucy. I'll move that seat forward a bit. Shortly.
Yeah, I've just had knee surgery. So.
Oh, right, okay.
In the years that followed, Letby was granted bail and then rearrested multiple times. During her trial, she pleaded not guilty to 7 counts of murder and 15 counts of attempted murder. After months of presenting evidence, Letby was found guilty on August 18, 2023, of 7 counts of murder and 7 counts of attempted murder. The jury was unable to reach a verdict on 6 counts of attempted murder, and she was acquitted of 2 further counts of attempted murder. Letby received a life sentence with a whole life order, the most severe sentence under English law. She is now regarded as the most prolific serial killer of children in modern British history, and her name will be remembered alongside those of Myra Hindley, Mary Ann Cotton, and Rosa Marie West. Fatal proposal. On the 19th of September 2019, Stephen Webber and his girlfriend, Kanesha Antoine, were holidaying in Tanzania, staying in a submerged cabin at the Manta Resort off Pemba Island. The cabin lies approximately 250 metres, 820 feet from the shore, and is moored in the crystal clear waters of the island's marine conservation area known as the Blue Hole. The bedroom is situated below the water and is surrounded by panes of glass that offer 360-degree views of the underwater world. On the 3rd day of their stay, Stephen from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, plunged into the water to make his proposal. Wearing the mask and fins provided by the accommodation's owners, Stephen held a note against the cabin glass window as Kanesha watched on from inside. The note read, "I can't hold my breath long enough to tell you everything I love about you. But everything I love about you, I love more every day." Mr. Webber then turns over the sheet of paper to ask Kanesha to marry him, before pulling out an engagement ring from his shorts and swimming out to view. Kanesha waited excitedly on the deck level of the cabin to give her answer and receive the ring. But panic set in when Stephen never resurfaced. Antoine had tried desperately to seek help. but was unable to reach resort personnel by phone or radio, and eventually had to flag down a passing boat, who found Stephen unresponsive in the water. They tried unsuccessfully to revive him. Sadly, at some point during his ascent, he got into difficulty in the water and sadly drowned. A very sad end to what should have been Stephen and Kanesh's day of celebration. John Edward Robinson and his family. This photo was taken in 1985 and appears to be of a loving family holding a new addition to their family. However, nothing could be further from the truth. The man holding the baby is John Edward Robinson. At the time this photo was taken, he was already a convicted criminal for theft and embezzlement. However, unbeknown to his family, his crimes had escalated to murder. For several years, John's brother Don and his wife Helen had been unsuccessful in their efforts to conceive a child and also in formal adoption processes. So John offered to assist his brother, claiming he had connections in the adoption business. However, rather than following the correct process, John began seeking out single pregnant women who could provide him with a child. Since he couldn't obtain referrals from social services, he directly approached a 19-year-old Lisa Stasi, a single mother of a 4-month-old baby named Tiffany, at a battered woman's shelter in January of 1985. Using the alias John Osborne, he persuaded her that he could enroll her in a training program in Texas that included daycare for Tiffany and job training. On January the 9th, John picked up Tiffany from Lisa's sister's house. The next day, her family got a phone call from a terrified-sounding Lisa telling them she had been an unfit mother. The last words her family heard from her were, "Here they come," before the phone disconnected. On January the 11th, John handed Tiffany over to his brother, along with forged legal documents that claimed the child's mother had committed suicide. The couple paid John $5,500 in legal fees and received a set of authentic appearing adoption papers with the forged signatures of 2 lawyers and a judge. Baby Tiffany's name was changed to Heather Tiffany Robinson, and she grew up in a loving family in Illinois. It wasn't until she was 15 years old that she found out the man she called Uncle John was actually a serial killer accused of murdering multiple women in the Kansas City area, including her biological mother, Lisa Stasi. Her adoptive parents were just as shocked and devastated as she was. They had no idea how Heather had been obtained. After her uncle's arrest, the true story of Heather's adoption began to unravel. She learned that she and her biological mother vanished in 1985 when she was just 4 months old, and that their family presumed both were dead. To this day, Lisa Stasi's remains have never been found. Ultimately, Robinson was found guilty of 2 capital murders and 5 state murders. He likely killed many others. He was a prolific conman and embezzler who used online chat rooms to make contact with some of his victims using the alias Slave Master, and was the first known serial killer to have used the internet to lure in victims. At the time of writing this, Robinson is on death row at the El Dorado Correctional Facility in Kansas. American physicist Harold Agnew. This photo looks innocent enough, until you realise what the man is carrying. The man in the photograph is American physicist Harold Agnew, who is carrying the plutonium core of one of the world's most devastating weapons, the atomic bomb code named Fat Man. On August the 9th, 1945, the United States detonated a bomb over the Japanese city of Nagasaki, resulting in the deaths of over 70,000 people. This was the second of only 2 nuclear weapons used in warfare, with the first being Little Boy, used in the bombing of the Japanese city of Hiroshima on August the 6th, 1945, during World War II. The bombing of Hiroshima killed an estimated 140,000 people, In the years following the bombings, many survivors suffered from leukemia, cancer, and other terrible side effects from the radiation. Take a look at this unedited footage of Fat Man being loaded into Boxcar, the plane that would drop it over Nagasaki, followed by the Nagasaki explosion from the window of an observation plane. Harold Agnew was responsible for capturing the only footage of the atomic bombing of Hiroshima on August 6, 1945. Agnew flew in a plane alongside Enola Gay and took the footage from a bird's eye view. Take a look. The clips and the devastation both those bombs caused gives a totally different perspective on the cheerful image of Harold Agnew.